Please help me, like this video and subscribe. I really appreciate your help. Escorts of Reddit, what was your first day of work like? Serious? Were you nervous? Was it awkward? Did you have fun? Was your client happy? How do you feel about it now? Did you get encouraged or discouraged by your experiences that day? Posted this before, but what the hell? Throw away for obvious reasons, but I'm an actively working girl. My first time was only about a month ago. It was through a website where you make offers to pay a girl to go on a date with you. They had to be very clear that it wasn't a prostitution website. You compensate for time, it said many times, but sex was fairly well implied. My first time was with a 43-year-old married man in town on business. He had contacted me about a week prior through the website, offering $80 for a date. He said he would give me $2,000 a month for regular sex if we liked each other. I said yes, and he told me which hotel to meet him at and when. He also told me what to wear. I arrived and he wasn't too bad looking, slender and way more tanned than you normally see as far north as I am. He bought me a drink first at the hotel bar and we talked for a bit. I was unbelievably nervous, but he was fairly reassuring. I was sure everyone knew what I was there for, and I was terrified of anyone calling me out. Eventually he suggested we head up to his room, and I gave the meekest okay that has ever passed my lips. We went up and sat on the bed and chatted a bit more before he kissed me. After a couple seconds he pulled back and said, "I like the way you do that. Let's take off your clothes and see what else you do well." I got naked and gave him a BJ. I wasn't really expecting him to finish that way, but he did. After that he laid back on the bed and indicated I should join him, so we snuggled and talked for a bit more. Eventually he told me that he thought I was funny and sweet and too good at that, and that he didn't want to see me again in case he formed an emotional attachment. He said he just wanted sex. He didn't want to mess things up with his wife. I said that was fine, and we talked some more. Eventually I started putting my clothes on. I was waiting for him to give me some money, but he wasn't making any moves in that direction. So I sat and talked with him a little longer. Eventually I reminded him that we had agreed on $80 for the date, and he acted all surprised. Then he made a show of looking for his wallet and then counted out each bill and dropped it on the bed as he did. I took it and left, not accepting his offer to call me a cab. I felt pretty gross. My later experiences were better. He sounds like he was a weird douche. My first job was a private client, and I was totally calm on my way there and during. It wasn't until I got into a cab to go home that I started crying. I wasn't even upset. It was just involuntary. A month later I joined an agency. My first night they gave me this guy who became my first regular. Always booked half an hour and I never stayed longer than 10. The other job of the night was in an office in an old industrial estate. Two very married man and another escort. She was really nice and reassuring and helped me get over the initial embarrassment. The rest of the night was just sitting in the car with my driver talking about World War II and listening to Frank Sinatra. Most of the time I even had fun, but I still always got butterflies on the drive there. I think it was the anticipation of not knowing who the guy was. They could be sincerely nice, or they could be a complete jerk. Edit. A few people have been asking about my education. I'm a med student in one of the more expensive parts of London. UK student loans are based on household earnings. My family are quite wealthy, and I have a few pre-existing debts, thus zero money. I hope things are better now for you. If the guy is a jerk, how do you deal with it? Not sure why you're being downvoted. Thank you for your concern. It was quite common as the agency wasn't exactly concerned with our safety, but I had a driver just outside, so I could leave or call him. And if I didn't text him to tell him I was okay once inside, he'd come check on me. I was an independent escort for 4 years. My first night, I was ridiculously nervous. I went to an upscale hotel, nervously walked through the lobby, hoping I looked like I belonged there and not like what I was really there for. I was nervous the whole elevator ride up to his room. I walk to his room, lightly knock on the door. He opens the door, says, "For the story's sake, we will use the name Sarah." "Hi, Sarah," and like an idiot I reply with my real name. We laughed it off. It was quick, 10 minutes. He was polite and clean. In the area for business. I ended up seeing him a few more times over the years, always very nice, tipped on top of the hourly rate, which was always appreciated, and made me choose to see him over other clients in the future. I have dozens of other stories, if anyone is interested in hearing. In general, what was your average client like in terms of demographics/behavior? Were most meetings fairly normally point G not really worth writing about? Most guys were family men, bored with their sex life at home, and looking for something different. I also saw some guys that were in their 20s, and I think did it just for the sake of saying someday that they did it. I did see quite a few weirdos. Had to kick some people out of my house, or in on case, ran out the door while putting my shirt on, and a good friend of mine who was working with me ran out behind me and dove into the car through a window, trying to just leave that guy's house as quickly as possible. My first time and only time as a male escort, I didn't realize that I was. I used to hair model from time to time for wedding photographers and hair salons, so I have a few headshots floating around on different modeling websites and stock images. One day, I got an email from a photographer that said he was practicing drawing and needed a nude male model to practice form. He said that he had a studio he could book and would pay $100 for 2 hours. I was saving up for a plane ticket to come home to surprise my parents for spring break, so figured this would be an easy way to make a connection in the art industry as well as pick up some cash. We agreed on a time. He gave me his number and we talked on the phone to voice verify, as well as the studio that we would be working at. When I arrived at the location, he was waiting there and said that the studio had been booked out to the night, and so he asked if I wanted to grab some food and then head to a hotel so we could just pose and draw there. I agreed. We had dinner, made small talk about church and what I was studying at my university, and eventually got a cheap hotel room in downtown Nashville. Eventually I got naked, and he asked if I thought I could get an erection so he could draw it. I said maybe, and he asked if he could help. I declined at first and attempted to get an erection, but eventually he said that he wanted to help and came over to me and started jerking me off. I didn't know what to do, as he was significantly bigger than me. I started to try to get up, but he laid on me and wouldn't let me move. He kept saying shh and told me that everything was going to be okay and he would get me back to my dorm in an hour. I gave up struggling and he gave me a BJ while he laid on me and kept me down. I was so scared that I came in about 2 minutes. I didn't say anything as he got up, tossed me my clothes, and said let's get you home. He drove me home in silence, and as I started to get out of the car he grabbed my arm and said I hope that was fun for you too. I'll let you know if I need any more fun in the future, and dropped 250s on the seat. I went back to my dorm and cried, not knowing if I just became a prostitute or got sexually assaulted. Sometimes I get contacted by him and got a couple messages from him while he was drunk, but I just ignore them and try to forget about it. Edit, a little late on the reply here, but thank you everyone for your kind words and advice. I did end up reporting it and getting help with school counselors, but the police said there wasn't any good evidence and kind of brushed it off since I was a male. Granted, I did wait a while to report it, so that could make sense as to why they didn't want to pursue anything. Regardless, the police officers I talked to had a okay reaction to me reporting it, and I felt ashamed of it and not safer. When I was leaving, I joined a couple sexual violence awareness groups and lend an ear to others who have been through similar situations. For anyone who needs help, /u/Shay Stays posted some great links and resources. While I could have seen red flags in the situation, that doesn't make anything that he did to me okay. Dude, I'm pretty sure you were assaulted. Throw away for obvious reasons. This sounds awful, but I was so desperate for money that I posted on Craigslist. Obviously that was stupid and dangerous, but I was 17 and I didn't think about it. I basically asked people to bid to see who I would go with. Keep in mind this was a suburb in the Midwestern US, so the money wasn't crazy. I ended up driving 45 minutes to meet a guy who then drove me to his house. Again, so stupid. I can't believe I didn't die that night. This dude was like 50, heavy cigarette smoker, smelled like booze. I told him I was 19. So stupid. The guy paid me $60/HR for 3 hours. He smoked a few bowls talked about jazz, and then very creepily went on and on about my BOO**s. I jerked him for like 30 minutes with this horrible rose scented lotion, blew him, and eventually we had sex. I was impressed he could get it up with how high he was, and figured he must be on something else. That's mostly what I was thinking about the whole time. I didn't feel it when he came, because I was too concerned trying to give a good performance. So awkward, but he didn't seem to notice. When I got off him there was no condom on his D***ck and I freaked until I realized it was still inside me. We hung out for a little while, he slept and I tried not to puke, and then he took me back to my car, filled up my tank, and gave me $300. All in all, not a horrible first experience, but also not wonderful. He's called me a few times, but I never went back. Thank you very much for watching. In the comments under the video, write what you think about all this, and maybe we have people who can tell their story on this topic. Write about it in the comments. And also do not forget to watch our other videos. Bye.